Welcome to the New South Wales Government's Business Connect webcasts on business disruption. I'm Josh Angus, a Business Connect advisor at the Business Centre. Business Connect is a dedicated program funded by the New South Wales Government and delivered through a network of independent service providers to help you start or grow your small business. Tonight we're talking about digitalising your operations. There's a significant research that shows that investment in technology and digital transformation will help your business grow at a rate 3 times faster than those that don't. The disruption of COVID forced many of us to quickly adapt, and one organisation that started their digitalisation journey well before COVID is Turnbull Hill Lawyers. And you may think, what does a law firm have to do with digitalisation? Well, in an industry traditionally heavily reliant on manual processes, my guest tonight is Warwick Golbertson, and the leadership team at Turnbull Hill, along with Warwick, have successfully digitalised their operations. They've implemented what Warwick calls a paper-light system, and they've improved client experiences, provided greater flexibility to their staff, and despite significant investment, the firm is busier and more profitable, something we'd all like to be. Warwick's going to discuss with us tonight on how they've done it, the impacts of it, both positive and negative, and how to bring staff and clients along that journey with you. Warwick, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I'm really glad to have you here.
My pleasure.
Well, fantastic. So tell us, when did the digitalisation journey start for Turnbull Hill?
It started many years ago. When I talk about many years ago, I'm saying around about the 2012-2014 period.
Long before most businesses.
We had, at that stage, been using, like a lot of businesses, computers, and we were using them as word processors and maintaining financial records and matters of that nature. But we found that we wanted to be more efficient. We found that there could be savings through how we recorded information and what we did. And our journey in it was also one which was initially driven by cost for us, cost savings, but also recognising where the future was going, and that so many of our clients were starting to will be heavily reliant on digital communication, digital passing of information, and that's the way they wanted to communicate. And we wanted to be part of that. We didn't want to see ourselves as the stodgy old law firm where you came along and there was piles of paper up and you shuffled through the paper and you had to handle it. So we started looking at it, and that's what caused us to start it. I remember many years ago, through just this centre, the centre set up something called the Rippler effect, and it was an opportunity for me to step into a group which were looking at innovation within structures and how you brought change and how you innovated and what you did and what people were doing around the world. And they put forward during that all their different ideas. And it was an opportunity to step back and look at how we operated as a business.
Did any of those ideas stand out to you at the time?
Very much so. The degree to which you would be able to set up a enterprise in one place, that you'd be able to operate in multiple places at the same time, and be able to offer the same service and the expectation of the client as you could. And we were seriously wanting to do that in a way that was of benefit to us and a benefit to our clients, so that we didn't have to duplicate in everywhere you were going to do it, that you had the same structure of support services, administration. You wanted to be able to be far more flexible of that. And they were, to do that with separate offices and things like that, was heavily overheads. You would, it'd drive costs up.
Investment, yeah.
And you'd go, surely there's got a better way to do that. And we'd struggled with it for years. So that started our journey. That's what caused us to start. And we found one of the things that I saw happen at Rippler that was suggested is you had to have what was called a champion. There had to be someone who would own it. And ensure the owners of the business need to be prepared to do it, but you needed someone who would actually drive the change. And we were very fortunate to actually appoint someone who we called our operations manager. And that person's role was to drive the change.
Change is difficult no matter the industry, no matter the business. You know, to an extent, we all resist change a little bit. And it's hard to bring staff and clients along that journey. So how did you manage that? I mean, obviously you brought in an operations manager, but how did you bring the staff on that journey and clients as well?
Clients enjoyed it. I would say the clients picked it up far more readily when COVID hit.
Oh, it certainly made it a lot more acceptable for
it was
online
far more
meetings.
acceptable for them. People still had the concept of wanting to be face to face, and they wanted to have hard copies of everything. COVID certainly blew that out of the water and enabled people to be far more accepting of soft copy documents, digitalisation of their documents, communicating that way, not needing to be face to face with their advisors. So that was relative, I would say that was more easy. We still have to be we still find that clients have different experiences of what they want. We have some people who still will not communicate electronically. You got to ring them up, ask them to come in, talk to them, and you've got to go through that process of analysing how they want to be communicated with. Staff, it was a matter of communicating. It was a matter of sharing with them where we were wanting to go, what we were wanting to do, how it would benefit them, and it became a regular feature that we would have sessions where we'd gather everybody together and there'd be a general presentation of what we were trying to do. So that...
Was there much pushback from those presentations from staff reluctant to the change, or that saw it as disruptive to their work?
There would have been, oh, not another change. What are we going to do this time? But there was more embracing of it, but at the same time, you might say there was a gentle resistance, and you had to deal with everybody individually. Some people are what I think has been called early adopters.
Yeah.
They got into it like you wouldn't believe, and away they went. New staff who come on who didn't know differently, just accepted it. Past ones who've been there for years liked the comfort of how they used to do things. So
we all get comfortable.
We all get comfortable. I've been in law, you can tell from my grey hair, a long time. So needing to be more digitally aware was a huge challenge of how to communicate in that way and the skills that you need to do it. So that I understood, and those of us who were there and been around for a long time understood the reluctance and why it was there, but there were so many advantages for us. But initially for us, the biggest advantage was cost saving. Because,
so, I mean, we talked about, you mentioned before, a significant investment that was needed to perform digitalisation, and now you're talking about cost savings. So would you say, how long does it take for that to catch up and level out? Because it is expensive to buy all this technology to transition into digital operations. How long does it take for it to catch up, do you think?
It never stops. You are continually trying to improve your processes. You have to, that's an expense you just have to live with, and you have to work through making sure that you get genuine value for money and that everything integrates.
I think integration is
integration
really
is absolutely basic.
Yeah.
We found initially that we had integration problems, phone line problems, being able to use the internet and the phone at the same time without them crossing over. And so there were provider difficulties that were issues. There were problems as far as how our recording of administrative tasks and charges would operate. and the systems didn't work with one system, but didn't work with how many photocopies were done, or how many things were scanned, or the letters that went out and where they were. You had to learn to analyse how each integrated with your system so that you can record it.
So what's the end result? I mean, obviously there's a number of challenges to that implementation. So what's the result now then? What's the change that
the change now is that we are so close to digital files that the only reason why we don't do it is, first of all, we're still testing the security of it. Are we properly recording all detail? How do you record automatic emails? How do you get them onto the relevant digital file? Do they just go into that morass of material and information that a legal practice receives? And we get huge amounts of information. So how do you make sure that gets to the right spot? We've put in practices and protocols to do that, but we still have not yet trusted our system. But we're getting close. On top of that, we also have looked at our systems that we have and how they work. So where are we at? We're at to the stage that I would say 3 or 4 areas of our practice could operate exclusively online with a digital file without a piece of paper.
Right. So what about the impact on staff productivity and the firm's profitability? So again, it was an expensive exercise to digitalise. It's an ongoing exercise. But have you seen improvement to the margins, to the bottom line? Have we seen improvement to productivity of the team?
Yes, we have. And it's a lot easier to ensure that the team is accountable. Firstly, you can pick up and work out what it costs to do something, because you're recovering all the information about what it takes to start a court process, do a conveyance. I don't do conveyance, but you're able to record everything so you know what it's costing. So therefore you're able to more fairly judge how profitable you really are. There's no guesswork in it. Secondly, you are the things that you can do is that you can ensure that there's one stop in one entry system that records what you need, so you don't have to multiple entries. You don't have one system that picks up what you're going to charge for another one as to where all the documents are. We've managed to integrate those. So one entry system. When such mail that does comes in, it's automatically put on a system and scanned. So you don't need to have pieces of paper in front of you unless that's the way you prefer to work.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a lot more secure for the client. It's a lot more easy for the management to ensure that things don't get lost, and it's a lot better for the operator or the person who is working on a document to be able to access it and record it. But we've had to go through processes of setting up an online file so that digitally our files very much resemble what a paper file used to be. It's just that it's all in digital form.
Right.
And some lawyers and some people love it, others still like the piece of paper. And
so with clients, obviously as a law firm, you're presenting client cases to the courts. COVID meant that some courts were accepting electronic lodgement. That's, I assume, going to end relatively soon, or do you think that'll continue for you guys as well, and then you'll be able to digitalise more?
I think the courts, look, it was brought in and there was legislation passed to make online swearing of documents more acceptable to a court. A number of courts have been receiving online filing documents for quite a while, and even very much pre-COVID. The federal courts have been doing that for a while. However, they were documents that had to be physically sworn, scanned, and then filed electronically. What COVID brought in, the fact was that you could do it all digitally. That is, the process to the client signing online, the client sending to you, you filing online, without it actually having to create a piece of paper if that's what you were able to do. And that was accepted. There are issues as to the veracity of identifying the person who signed. That is still a legal issue. And post-COVID, that will be something the courts will struggle with.
So also, that's part of that. We were talking before about paper light, and that's part of that paper light that you were talking about earlier. So what else has gone, I guess, to your term of paper light around the firm? Is that just all of your digital files and you know, what's still left that hasn't been digitalised? What's next on the digital hit list?
What's next? Well, we've already got all our ministry functions online. All of that operates. We still have face-to-face meetings. You can't digitalise that. we still have those, and people like to interact. Our letter writing, I can have a letter created, signed online, sent online. It's not, the file's online. If you went and tried to pick up a file somewhere with a cardboard piece around it and say, is that the file? No, it's not. You've got to go in the computer and put the records on. So we're at that stage. Really what's got to do is the acceptance of various providers, of how we can interact with them, and documents will be recognised and accepted with veracity. And what I mean by that is that it will be a proper swearing of an affidavit, a correct signing of a will, a correct signing of a trust deed, that these authorities will accept as an original. Now at this stage, those processes are not in place. The security that it is the genuine original article is still a strong issue. We've all had experiences of hackers, so there are those issues, and it would require legislative change and authority for that to happen. And I don't see that as immediate. I think that's going to be a big issue to come to grips with that. And until our systems can identify the person who put the signature on, and at the time when they did it, what they were like at the time, it's going to be a struggle. So there are some things that digitalisation will never be able to get to. That will be an issue, but increasingly it will be one where you can interact far more with courts, with government authorities, all online. And you can. COVID made us such that the courts have discovered that you can be more efficient if you don't have a group of people in a building, in a crowded area that's like a bus station, with people running in and out of rooms for 8 to 9 hours a day, that you can actually manage things a lot more efficiently by using remote technology and modern technology. COVID has made that happen. It's had its good points, but it's had its bad points.
Yeah.
Its bad points is how you and I can communicate here. We can see each other, and we can look in each other's eyes, and we can relate. If you're trying to organise and negotiate something with somebody, and all you're looking at is at a screen and some face that's there, it doesn't have the same interpersonal relationship or drama or effect. And you're never going to get around that.
So, I mean, obviously in negotiations that's important, but even just building trust and rapport with a client, how are you building trust and rapport with clients digitally, online? You've probably got a lot of the team working from home or on a hybrid model, I guess, certainly in COVID when we're all at home. So how do we build trust with our clients through digital meetings?
By actually making sure that you provide the service in the manner that you tell them you're going to do it. That you actually give them a document that they can readily understand, that you give it to them within the time that's been agreed and you honour that time, and that you are able to have them communicate with you in the way that's best for them, either on the phone or by email, where they have their questions and you respond to those questions. You don't just give them a blurb of information. You actually take them through what is there and explain that to them. That's how you build trust. Ultimately, however, there are a number of areas where you do actually have to see somebody, but you can minimise that so that in many instances you could see a person once in a transaction. Take for example now, and as I told you earlier, I'm not a person who deals with conveyancing, buying and selling of land. But you can do that transaction now without seeing anybody. And it's all done online, it's all automated, it's all up front, everybody sees what's going on under the lodging system and the readiness the system we have, which is called PEXA in New South Wales. Everybody getting a transaction ready when you're dealing with the incoming bank and the outgoing bank for borrowing, you're putting money in, you're going through, you're ticking off all that's required by various government departments. It's all there on a screen. It's not a matter of, is Bill telling me the right thing? Can I trust him with that? It's all up front. You can see what's going on.
So digitalisation has made things more transparent, more productive, more profitable, certainly has brought its challenges, but overall people have embraced it. That's kind of the sum up of it, right?
They've been more readily prepared to accept it. It has its big security challenges. Privacy is a major issue. Security of information is a major issue. The degree to which people need to be identified properly when you're dealing with them online is a major issue. And although we can deal with our clients online, we have to be prepared to identify them, and there are legislative and regulation requirements about what we have to do about that. How do I know when I'm dealing with Josh on a Zoom meeting that that's the same person who's signed this document? How do I know that that's who he is? He's introduced himself as Josh, but is he really Josh? So that's the verification of identity is a major issue of how that's happening, and there are many protocols that government departments and organisations have put in place about that. That's why when you go to the bank to open a bank account, you've got to go with your driver's licence, your birth certificate, your passports, the whole shebang, because the bank's got the same problem.
Yeah.
They want to verify your identity. That's our major difficulty, and I don't see that changing for quite a while.
So what about working arrangements for staff? Of course, in COVID, we're all working from home. Some have slowly started coming back to the office. Some are back full time. Some are doing a hybrid model. How did the firm cope with working from home? And has that continued for you? Do you see that continuing?
We didn't have anywhere near the same difficulty because of our practice being Newcastle based, and also an office in East Maitland and an office that we can use in Tuggerah. We didn't have anywhere near the problems that Sydney had or the big capital cities had with working from home. Also, our office was not in a high rise, and so access problems that so many businesses had of interaction was not as big an issue for us. We're also in that convenient stage that our offices were not, we never hot desked. So everybody had their own space. So social distancing as COVID required was easy for us to do. Our teams were able to work from home if they wished, and we had flexibility for that. And we still have it now, even though our office is available and everybody's operating normally. If we have a staff member who's having difficulty, they're feeling a bit crook, or they're looking after a child who's sick and they can't come into work, many of our lawyers just work from home as if they're working at the office. They've got the same access to all the information, they can do the work. I don't believe they can do it as efficiently as they could in the office, because there's far too many interruptions that are capable from on home, and you have to be far more disciplined about that. They also would not have the means, well, they still can communicate with each other through various means. With Microsoft Teams,
in the office
our own communications within our office, phone systems within the office. They can do all of that. But there is a time where you can consult as a group.
Yeah.
And although it's possible to do it remotely, I don't really call that digitalisation. I just call that being able to communicate remotely. Digitalisation is the gathering of information financially and written, and how it can be distributed to the benefit of everybody. So we're certainly a long way down that road. We've still got lots to do, but it's more that signing of documents and readiness. What holds us back most of the time is the integration of our systems with other systems. Just because we may be able to integrate our processes within our structure, that doesn't mean our stuff will work with another legal practices, with federal courts, with the state courts, with a client down the road. Can they, as basic as read documents, can they sign and scan something and send it back? Can they do that? Many say yes, many say no. What will their system allow? And the limitations of the individual being able to understand and use modern technology is probably one of the greatest limitations to how far you can go with digital communication.
It's great to see that you guys started this journey long before many others, well positioned in disruption of COVID, able to continue trading, continue working along, everyone, just continue almost as normal because you'd already started that journey.
Exactly.
So I think it really highlights that the sooner we start this digitalisation journey in our businesses, the better positioned we are for adversity.
I would agree, it's a lot, but it's a journey. And frankly, it's a journey that doesn't stop. The moment you think you've got it, you haven't. And also, there is no such thing as, this is the package that I need and that will work for me. You have to see what's out there and you have to adapt. That's one of our big difficulties, adapting what is out there that works for us. And I'm the last person you should consult about that. I say, this is what I want, will it do it? And somebody else has to interpret what I'm talking about and bring it into being. And I'm just one of a number of people who have that same expectation. And it is partly trial by error. It's also very much checking carefully what every system and software package will actually do and how it works together, and making people show you. And we've struggled with that, and we've also struggled with our providers being able to actually do what we want it to do. And we've had to push them. And sometimes they've been pushable and sometimes they haven't. So that something doesn't work and we'll want to put a change will come through, and there needs to be a revision or an update. And when the update comes in, suddenly 3 or 4 of the various computers are having problems because of integration of the change. So having staff who understand how that operates are essential. So for us, we need people who are IT, and we have them on staff to interpret what our IT providers actually give us and help us with. Twice today I had to ask for my IT person to come and help this limited knowledge computer operator why my computer was not recording what I wanted it to do, that it had what I call a spaz, and how to fix that, which when people work from home is an issue.
Yeah.
How do people do that?
Isolated, and then if there's an issue, much harder to
and how do you do it? What's their knowledgeability? And then the security of information. That's, you just can't have everybody being able to access information that is secure to your enterprise. And sure, you can get various IT providers who you can give them permission to log on and to fiddle around with what you've got, but do you want them to? And is that just your clients want them to? And what does the privacy law say about that? So you've got to go through those steps and think about it. So there are great, good things, but there are limitations, yeah.
So it's great to hear that the digitalisation has caused you better productivity, better profitability, better client outcomes. It's had its challenges in change, and all change has its challenges. We have to be very careful how we manage change, bring staff and clients along the journey for us. But Warwick, I really appreciate your time this evening and coming down. It's been really fantastic. So I would again like to recommend the Business Connect program, which is a dedicated program funded by the New South Wales Government and delivered through a network of independent service providers to help you start or grow your small business. If you would like a business advisory session subsidised by the New South Wales Government under the Business Connect program, call 1300 134 359 or email connect@treasury.nsw.gov.au. That leads me to again thank the amazing team at Fordtronic who provide the expertise and technology behind this webcast and have been our AV partners over a whole range of projects and who we strongly endorse. If you would like to talk to them about implementing webcasting as part of your business, please email the Business Centre for contact details. Thanks.